They usually skip this chapter in the history of sign language, but Native Americans actually came up with several of their own versions of sign language way before ASL ever became a thing. The biggest one was historically called Plains Indian Sign Language, although many indigenous groups today now usually prefer the term hand talk, and at its peak it had over 100,000 speakers spanning 3 different language families across what is now the central US. But the even more interesting thing about hand talk is that it wasn't just used to communicate with deaf people, rather it served as kind of a lingua franca between tribes that often use different spoken languages. As you can see, the regular linguistic map of indigenous language families was really complicated, so whenever members of different nations would meet, they would often revert to gestures to understand each other. On top of that, it was just a natural way to communicate across large flat distances, so it was especially useful out on the plains. And it's important to note that like any real sign language, this wasn't based on some spoken language, but it could still be written, making this one of the few sign languages that also has a written form. Unfortunately, in the late 19th century, the federal government started forcibly assimilating indigenous children into boarding schools, meaning that we lost a lot of native signers. However, some of the deaf native children ended up attending the American School for the Deaf in Hartford,